Hi, everyone. Khasim Lockhart here, and I am proud and happy to be here with Mr. Steven Cordero, Fordham Law Class of 1999, as we continue the AAC's interview uh, process, highlighting some notable alumni in the Fordham AAC community. Before we get into specific questions from me, I just wanted Mr. Cordero to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself and where life has taken him since Fordham Law.
Hey, thanks for inviting me here, Kasim. It's an honor to be spotlighted and working to do these segments. It's video history, the AC and members and the law school. I'm glad to be here. As you mentioned, class of 1999. Uh, 25 years since graduating. We had our reunion last year. I was actually at a boutique firm to start my career, hired by a fellow Fordham grad, and I was there until 2013. And when the firm shut down, and I joined Ackerman in April of 2013 as a lateral associate and became a partner in 2017, and been there ever since. We have a number of Fordham grads at the law firm, and I'm just glad to be here and always be involved with the law school and especially with the AAC.
So first, that's a really notable career and a path that I think a lot of people will be inspired by. But you did mention AAC. Tell me a little bit about how you got involved with AAC and why it's important to you.
Okay, first is that the AAC is important to me because it has fostered connectedness in the greater Fordham Law School community with others who share our same backgrounds, our experiences, and admittedly our struggles. And you asked how I got involved with the AAC, and like so many of us, there's one name involved here, and that's Brenda Gill. And so that's how I got involved. And as I mentioned in my intro, it just coincided not that far after I joined Lateral over into Ackerman, and at the time of my career when that was taking a huge jump as a lateral associate. The boutique law firm I had been in since I got out of law school had closed down, and I joined Ackerman's New York office, which had recently opened and was expanding its litigation group. So I was dealing with a culture shock from essentially going from a family business to a big corporation and later in my career. And I wasn't sure of my footing. And fortunately, I had updated my contact information at the time, and Brenda was sending out feelers about something she wanted to create at the law school called the AAC. And she wanted to see if who other alumni was going to be interested. And of course, I said yes.
Yeah, awesome. So since then, how has AAC been beneficial to you, both personally and professionally?
Personally, and this is where I definitely want to shout out to the AAC. I'm grateful to the AAC, especially because of the program you that was put on during the pandemic shutdown. And not many people might know this, but my father was one of the first 40,000 killed by COVID in the first month of the pandemic. And it was such a terrible time in New York City by those impacted by COVID who were struggling to protect the vulnerable, saying goodbye to our loved ones, and literally scrambling to collect their bodies in an environment where many were denying that there was anything wrong, and they were complaining about small inconveniences. And the AAC at the time put on virtual programming that made me feel connected. And admittedly, at the time, it gave me a place to escape to. And so that's why I'm really grateful for the AAC on a personal level for that. And professionally, besides being connected to other professionals and other in different areas and different practice groups and getting connected, and as especially as I'm a big firm partner, and business generation is a huge part of what we are. And that's what I think about from that end, just thinking about especially the opportunity for the AAC. Frankly, I think there's a chance to do more, and not for all members, and especially and raise the stature of the AAC. And the reality is that our members tend to be the most successful people we know. We don't have built-in networks. Most of us aren't second or third generation attorneys. We tend to not have college roommates who became entrepreneurs and created startup companies. We tend not to live in neighborhoods where we take the LIR or Metro North and sit next to CEOs. And when we have big firms, we tend not to inherit business with senior partners. And so that creates a bit of a void. And so I think the AAC has an opportunity to be deliberate about promoting business development within our group. And it's not talking about skills and but the literal matchmaking or connecting those in-house and outside counsel. And I don't think that is appreciated where we are, because frankly, because I live it as a management level, as a partner level, senior at a firm, and we're really at a crisis point in the legal and the for-profit legal industry. Our numbers are dwindling. And speaking specifically for the Hispanic attorneys, the HMBA did a study a couple of years ago that showed about 4% of all attorneys in the US are Hispanic, and only 1.8% of all partners are Hispanic. The numbers are about the same for Black attorneys and Asian attorneys, but those are really bad numbers to be real.
Yeah.
And our numbers in many ways are actually going down, especially at the partner level of where there's an economic ceiling at the firms. And in fact, anecdotally, we could just look at the partners in our communities, especially women partners who are left for-profit law. And so, and what's the importance of that if people see that? Is that we actually see that impact with the assault on law firms and many law firms capitulating to these assaults now. The simple fact is that our members of our community, they're not at big law firm executive committees, and they're certainly not the chairpersons. So these are decisions that are impacting us in which our voices aren't heard. And then you think about even broader, you know, how does that impact, the not the big law or not profit law, basically? Just think about this, how it ultimately impacts even Fordham at a whole, because where these law firms direct pro bono hours has now been changed. Funding to certain initiatives that impact our communities specifically has now changed. And sponsorships for associations and causes directly that impacts our communities has now changed. So you can see how the ripple effect of all this happens,
Right.
right? And so that's why I say it's a new position, and it's positioned the AAC to look at it holistically and not just simply promote within, but collaborate within. And so that's the opportunity that AAC has. And I'm glad to be involved in the AAC that has that opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Really, really, really well said, Steve. And I appreciate you sharing the story about your father. And also, you used the word, you said connection. I think that's important, right? And I'm happy that AAC was able to provide you with that feeling of connection during what I'm sure was a tough time. But I guess the next question that I'd like to ask is, what's one word you would use to describe AAC?
Okay, and that, to me, it's easy. And I did mention it here when I was just speaking. Of course, it's community,
Yeah.
right? And if I wanted to cheat, it'll be connectedness, and the third cheating would be home. And
Yeah.
so I could just interchangeably use all three.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and let's just move forward. I know for the sake of time, can you share some color on your career path? I know you touched upon it originally, but what elements of your practice have you enjoyed most? What lessons have you learned over the course of your journey?
Oh yeah, no, thank you, Kasim. And you have mentioned those are non-traditional in many ways on that. Uh, is I never wanted to be a lawyer growing up. I could draw, I could paint. I wanted to be a comic book artist. And when I told my father that because English was his second language, he thought I meant stand-up comic. And so when I explained it to him, he said, "No way, you're going to be productive with your talents." And so I went to college to be an architect, but I had to drop off of financial reasons after the first year, despite being on the honor roll. I joined the U.S. Army for the GI Bill, and I served honorably for 3 years. But unfortunately, I got injured when I was in the service, and during that time in which I was convalescing, I got exposed to the law, and my interest changed, and I wanted to pursue that. And so then that's when I went to John Jay College because I had no real experience with the law, so I wanted to find it out, and eventually Fordham Law School. And you asked about and about my career and what it is this, and it ties back once again being a creative person, and I've leaned into that my whole career. I'm also a competitive person. I'm a big Yankee fan. and Knick fan. And so as a litigator, I get to craft stories on behalf of my clients every day, and I get to perform as an advocate. I also get to compete against others at the highest level in my adversaries. And that has driven me for the last 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think something that I get the sense just from knowing you previous to this conversation, but also hearing you speak right now, is that you have a really great ability to pivot and make sure that every pivot leads to some success for you. So I really commend you on that. Just to wrap things up, what advice would you give to young attorneys of color as they navigate their careers? And also, sorry for the two-part questions repeatedly, but how can they maintain a sense of community and connectivity with other attorneys of color?
Okay, another great questions. And on this is that first, to young attorneys, like I said, first, remember that you are exceptional. You wouldn't be where you are without being that. Never forget that. Second, tying a little bit what I said before, find what you love in what you do. Be self reflective and understand that about yourself. As I mentioned, creativity and competition are things I love. So that is something I lean into on a daily basis. So find those things, even if it's small things, in your legal practice. It will sustain you for a long career. Third, always strive to get better as an attorney, no matter where you are and where you work. That is the thing that's completely in your control. And one last thing is to remember in our communities, resilience is a necessity. It can also be your superpower, and never forget that. And then the last is that the two part, if I remember, is that how do I manage sense of community and connectedness with our other attorneys of color? One, be involved, right? As a theme of this interview, be connected, have each other's back, and lastly, and you'll actually make the profession a better place and in this world better place. Don't buy into the paradigm of the zero sum game because we can literally all win.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Look, Steve, I always enjoy our conversations. This is added to that list of great conversations that we've had. I thank you on behalf of everyone who's going to get to see this wonderful interview and hear your wise words. I thank you as well. And looking forward to seeing what else AAC has in store and how we could collaborate moving forward as well.
Thank you so much, Khasim. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Steve.